Eine Webseite hat nahezu jedes Unternehmen. Ganz selten findet man Organisationen ohne. Und deswegen müssen wir mal schauen, was macht eigentlich Webseiten aus, die das tun, was sie tun sollen, und wo am Ende man auch sagt, die macht tatsächlich das auch und bringt das als Ergebnis, was wir tatsächlich haben wollen, während ganz viele sagen, ja, wir haben eine Webseite, da finden sie ein paar bunte Bilder, aber ansonsten weiß ich nicht, warum wir überhaupt eine haben. Und deswegen haben wir genau dazu einen Experten eingeladen. Chris Davidson ist nicht nur Ingenieur, Chris Davidson ist auch im IT-Bereich seit der ersten Stunde, als es noch Datenverarbeitung genannt wird, dann EDV, das volle Programm. Chris Davidson selber ist Engländer und von daher ist das Interview auf Englisch geführt. Ein klares und einfach zu verstehendes Englisch. Auch für den deutschen Kanal wollte ich hier entsprechend dann die Möglichkeit geben, hier zuzuhören. Und die Frage ist, was macht Ihre Webseite eigentlich und was sollte Ihre Webseite tatsächlich tun? Dazu werden Sie gleich jede Menge Expertise hören mit Chris Davidson im Interview. Ich wünsche viel Spaß beim Zuhören. Most of you have a website. Probably all of you have a website. However, is your website really working? And of course, you will now say, well, probably it is. However, there's someone who says, or someone who poses the question, why your website doesn't work. A fabulous book, which I just read, and we will talk about that today. Hello and welcome, Chris Davidson.
Hello, Niels. Nice to hear from you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being on the podcast again, backed by popular demand, as I say. You're now in IT for a long time. You're an experienced, seasoned engineer in the area. How do you get to the point that you say, because there's a lot of experience going in there, there's a lot of money going into websites. How do you come to the question to ask people why your website doesn't work? Aren't there many people who think, I think it does work?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, that. And I started to get suspicious in about 2015, looking around particularly the small business end of the market, and particularly in the services sector. Mm-hmm. And I started to get suspicious that maybe these websites weren't as effective as they could be. Mm-hmm. And maybe the owners were actually struggling. And I was getting some clues from owners who were clearly having some difficulties. So in 2017, I thought, okay, we need to dig into this. So I did a survey mm-hmm. of what I called the Worldwide Digital Footprint Survey in 2017.
Yeah, I think you do that for 5 years now, because I think I said at one of your workshops in central London, close to Marble Arch, where we talked about this.
That's right. So I did. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I did it for 5 years on the trot. From 2017 to 2021, I surveyed about 2,000 websites a year. Mm-hmm. And the results did indeed prove that a lot of websites are struggling, and so that was the research that led me then to, in this year 2022, to write the book that you're talking about, based on the research from 17 to 21. Mm-hmm. And I would say that there were a number of problems, really.
Which ones would you say are the most prevalent ones, the most important ones?
Yeah, well, I think it probably comes in buckets. There's mm-hmm. buckets of problems, and there's a bucket that you could say would be all the technical issues. And they are relatively easy to fix, actually, because even though they might seem to be technical and difficult and all the rest of it, it is as easy as getting somebody who understands the technical stuff to read the appropriate information produced by Google and all the other people in the industry, and then just make sure that those technical issues are dealt with. Mm-hmm. And once they are dealt with, they basically remain dealt with. They, mm-hmm. They don't kind of become undone. So the technical problems can be fixed reasonably easily by getting the right people involved. There's another set of problems, two more sets of problems, really. There's a set of problems to do with finding the right market. That's difficult. And then there's a set of problems to do, and this is particularly true of the services sector. There's a set of problems to do with creating the right product for that market. And those two sets of problems are much more difficult to fix, and they continually move. They don't stay fixed. Unlike the technical issues that once you fix them, that's it.
Yeah, done. Yeah.
Done and dusted. These keep moving as markets changes, as markets change, and the requirements of the people within the market change. Your products have to change with them. And all of this is in a state of sort of continual flux, which means that there is always work to be done in these two other areas.
So that means we have a lot of work to do. And when I read the book, this whole book, Why Your Website Doesn't Work, what I expected is, okay, look, this is a book and you read through it, and then good luck from here, you do something. And it's not only an unusual book, it's not just a book. I mean, it must have been quite an undertaking to write the whole book. Because it's more. There's a toolkit, there's an online assessment, and there's a software tool where I, as a reader, can actually improve my website content from what's in there. How did you put all this together? Where did this all come from?
Yeah, it was quite an undertaking.
I can imagine, because I expected it was going to be a nice read on the train, and then I realized, oh, it's way more than that.
Yeah. It turns out that eventually I ended up writing two books. It's a book within a book, just like Shakespeare's Hamlet is a play within a play.
Yeah.
So Why Your Website Doesn't Work is a book within a book, and so, but that is for a reason. So I started off saying, okay, let's just see if we can help these people who have these websites, because they're in crisis, these websites, and they're in crisis for a reason. Because when I started in IT, which was, by the way, before the term IT even existed, it was just called data processing in those days. So it was a long time ago. But in the early 1980s. If you imagine a pendulum that you would have in a big clock, the swinging slowly forwards and backwards. In the early 1980s, the IT pendulum, as it were, was at one full extent of its swing, let's say to the left, and that would represent computing in those days being difficult, expensive, largely the preserve of young engineers who spoke a language nobody understood. And then, we fast forward a decade to 1990. The pendulum has swung from the left all the way through to the right. And as we approach 1990, the internet is just around the corner. Bill Gates is on the scene. The IBM PC has been out for about a decade. PowerPoint has come along. Word has come along. Excel has come along. The computing is now cheap, or cheaper. It sits on everybody's desk, and there are software packages that the average Jane and the average Joe can use. So there has been this, over a decade, IT has revolutionized. And for a short while thereafter, when the internet hit, and websites became popular and what have you, and then content management systems came on into the market, and WordPress arrived, etc., etc. Everything became easy, and we all thought that it would stay that way. But the point is, it hasn't, and this is the point that people are missing. The IT pendulum is now swinging back towards the complexity of the 1980s, but people haven't realized that is what is happening. And that's why their websites are in crisis. Websites are now much more complex than they used to be. Why? Because they have to deliver all of their information to tablets, to mobile phones, to any device you care to mention. You expect to be able to read a website on it. And that is technically complex.
So when I jump on that, what I want to read on a website, what I need, probably you heard that many people say, hey, we live in the information age. And according to what I read in your book, you think that's not really the case anymore. It's a bit of an old hat. It's not what we do right now. It's not what we have right now. So why is that? And also, of course, when we don't live in the information age, what do we do right now? Where are we? What has replaced it? And of course, as a self-employed person, I have to ask, what is the impact on my business? Because that means what is the impact on my cash?
Yeah, exactly. Now this is a really good point, and it's an important one, because there are lots of people out there who are keen in getting information onto their website. So they say, look, I understand that search engine optimization has something to do with content. So I'm going to write lots of content, and I'm going to put, I'm going to be blogging once or twice a week, and I'm going to put lots of content out there and lots of content onto my site. And that's going to be good, isn't it? Maybe. So
maybe
they're doing that.
Sound too positive. That doesn't sound too maybe.
They're doing that because they're in this belief that more is better, because we live in the information age. Except we don't. We have enough information. In fact, we have too much information. So, as an example, the example I quoted in the book. You might imagine that renting drones for use in agriculture would be a niche market. That sounds like a niche market for me, having a drone flying over a field with ground-piercing radar, understanding the root structure of the crop within a field. That sounds like a niche market. So I put that search term into Google, into the UK search, the UK version of Google, renting drones for agricultural use. And in under a second, Google gave me over 11 million returns.
Wow.
We do not have an information problem.
Okay, so even when you think you have a niche market, probably you're not working in a niche market. You just hope that you do.
Yeah. So what now? If you are a supplier in that market, let's say that you are a supplier for drones in agricultural use, right? Then there isn't an information problem. As a supplier to that market, I have an engagement problem. My job is to engage the farmer at the other end who is typing into the keyboard that they want to rent a drone for agricultural use. And I need to engage that farmer. So we're not living in the information age. We are living in the engage age. That's where we are. Information isn't the problem anymore. The challenge is to engage people, which requires a different focus for websites.
Okay, so when when we need a different focus for websites, I remember. Let me check how you call that. So you created something which is called here I got it. The website effectiveness framework, because you just talked about websites. This website effectiveness framework helps me to prioritize what I should or should not do on my website. And of course, that leads to spending my budget more efficiently. But of course, I think other people would like to know, because I now read the book already. So how does that work, and how does that also relate with the assessment you have? Because you have a website effectiveness assessment as well. Could you give us some details on that?
Yeah, sure. So let's go back to those three buckets. Yes. I talked about having the bucket that had the technical problems in it. I talked about the bucket that kind of had the market related problems in it, identifying the market. And then we had another bucket that was to do with the products, what you sell to the market. And when I say product, I'm including services in there. Okay. Yeah. Product or services, we'll just label them product at the moment. So we've got these three buckets: technical, market, and product. Okay. So let's subdivide those buckets into smaller buckets that we can actually deal with individually. And it just so happens that those 3 buckets neatly subdivide into 5. So the technical bucket remains a technical bucket, and I just change the label on it, and I call that cogency. Why do I call it cogency? Because what I want to be able to do is to measure whether a website is technically cogent. Is it all together in one piece, or has it got holes in it? Is this bucket got holes in it? If so, how many holes has it got?
Yeah.
So cogency deals with all of the technical aspect of your website. Okay, the market bucket, you have to divide that into 2, partly because of the engage age that we've just talked about. So you have to divide it into 2. The first division is what I call systems engagement. And that deals with the fact that when a visitor arrives at your website, your principal job is to engage that visitor. This is making the assumption that that it's not an e-commerce site. If it's an e-commerce site, then your job is to make a sale. But if you're dealing with a services sector, then more than likely you're not going to make the sale on the first visit. If you're not going to make the sale on the first visit, then you have to find some way of engaging that visitor. And so you have different systems that enable you to do that. You have online chat, you have a callback, you have put your name, rank, and number in here, and we'll send you some information, some kind of lead magnet system that we can come to. But there are all these different systems that are available to people who own and build websites that allow them or give them the opportunity to engage visitors. That's called systems engagement. And we need to be able to measure how effective a website is at doing that. Running alongside systems engagement is another subset of the marketing bucket, which is called community engagement. And there is a sense in which you can say that has more to do with the business owner than it does to do with the website itself. So how well is that business owner known in the marketplace for being somebody who serves the need of the market? And if they are well known, more than likely they are going to have good social media profiles.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
Wherever that market meets, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is, that's wherever those people meet, then the owner of that business is going to be there serving the needs of the market, and the market is going to be grateful for that and know who that person is. So that person will have good community engagement. And the fact that they have that good community engagement will produce traffic for their website. It just will. There's a natural. Yeah. There's a natural linkage there. However, if the traffic that is produced by community engagement goes to the website and doesn't get engaged, then there's a miss, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I will look at that and say, yeah, nice, thank you.
Exactly.
It's a typical thank you, no thank you moment.
Exactly. So systems engagement, community engagement work hand in hand. Now, we still haven't talked about the product. Yeah. All we've been talking about at the moment so far is fixing the technical problems, getting a technically cogent website, and finding and serving a market.
And especially, if I may interrupt you shortly, when you talk about the product, one of my favorite parts was you have a certain metrics for that. I just give you an example. In my industry, you have many people, and they might have great ideas, but they are, let's say, not aligning with what their clients are looking for. Let's just put it in polite terms. And you created this product client alignment metrics, and that actually helps to create service-oriented businesses, to improve how to promote the services. And maybe you can get into that as well. How does this? I think you call it PCAM, the product client alignment metrics. What kind of problems does this PCAM solve, and how actually does it work? But I didn't want to interrupt you. If you have a third point, just make it there.
No.
Okay.
No. We can deal with PCAM now, because as we progress through the website effectiveness framework, we've dealt with 3 of the 5 elements, haven't we? We've done cogency, we've done systems engagement, we've done community engagement, and I think that listeners will be able to appreciate that basically if you're diligent and you do your work, you can tick off the boxes of cogency and go, yeah, okay, I've ticked all the boxes. I've done what Google want me to do. Yep, I've got systems and engagement sorted. I've got some good lead magnets and what have you. Yep, and my community engagement is good. So if you're diligent and you do the work, you'll get through those 3 boxes in good time, Mm-hmm. But then everybody gets stuck here. And that I see so many websites and so many business owners stuck in this next point, which is to describe what it is they do and for whom they do it. And this is where there is definitely a log jam. Mm-hmm. Without a shadow of a doubt, there is definitely a log jam. There are too many cases where there are examples of websites that have good information about the generalized offer, but then the information peters out. It doesn't get specific into a particular product. And so I saw a need to help business owners do that. And I created the PCAM, as you quite rightly say, the product client alignment matrix. So that is a matrix. It's actually a spreadsheet tool. And what that does is manipulate text, and it helps business owners align the products that they have with the needs of their clients. And that is the biggest problem out there in the services marketplace. This misalignment, or even complete lack of alignment, not even misalignment, complete lack of alignment between products that companies sell and the clients that they want to serve. And so the product client alignment matrix is a tool that you quite rightly say is part of the book. If you buy the book, then you're able to download a copy of PCAM, and the user guide for PCAM is the book within a book that I mentioned. So the user guide for PCAM is built into the center of the whole book.
So there's a lot more than just the book.
There's a lot more than the book. And then the product client alignment matrix unlocks your access to the final 2 parts of the overall website effectiveness framework.
Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, so we have this concept of there being a 5-tier framework, and the challenge that everybody would say when they have kind of got to grips with the framework, and they say, well, that's really good, Chris. I understand that conceptually, but where am I? where am I in this framework? Where's my website? How do I measure that? And so, again, I built a tool to do that as well. So there is the website effectiveness assessment, which gives you a percentage score for each tier of the website effectiveness framework.
That will be interesting for many how they score, and probably I can tell you that I wildly overestimated or just made a wrong guess where I am on the scale. So
what the objective of the website effectiveness assessment is to help people spend their money wisely, because over the years I have just come across too many people where they've told me how much money they've been spending on, for the sake of argument, SEO or whatever, or pay per click or whatever it is.
You spend a ton of money on SEO, and then people tell you, oh, SEO, you first $1 million in there, and then you have some website with some funnel, and magically we hope that business comes out of it at the end. And this is not how it works, as we probably all experienced.
Yeah, and so they're spending their money. They're spending their money just unwisely. And so what the website effectiveness assessment does is that it tells you, or it gives you a good hint as to, this is what you want to fix first, spend your money over here. So for example, if you have a low cogency score, if your website has technical problems, if Google is not going to look on your website favorably, then there is little point in spending a ton of money on SEO, copywriters, and all the rest of it if Google is going to discriminate against your website.
True.
Fix the basics first. On the other hand, let's assume you have got a really cogent website. So that's great. Tick that box. And let's assume that your community engagement score is really high. So, you're generating lots of traffic. Your SEO is good and all, but your systems engagement is poor. So you're generating lots of traffic to a really good website, but the traffic is just going through the website like water off a duck's back.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Well said.
So there's no point. There's no point in sending all this traffic to the website because people aren't engaging. And then it's not that they aren't engaging. It's the fact that they can't engage, So, for example, I'll give you one example of a terrific website for engagement, and that is the travel company Trailfinders. Trailfinders.com. And it's a UK company. You go to the Trailfinders website and their engagement is absolutely first class. You can speak to these people any which way you want to. You can speak to them. You can get hold of them. You can pop your number in here and we'll call you back in less than a minute. And they do. They are just terrific. They have a whole raft of local geographic numbers that you can ring. I ring them up. Trailfinders have been getting my travel business for decades. I ring them up. And it doesn't matter which phone I'm calling them on, the office phone, the mobile, the home phone, whatever. I ring any Trailfinders number. They answer it. They say, "Good afternoon, Mr. Davidson. How are you? How can we help you today?" And the agent has my records on the screen in front of them before they've answered the phone.
So they know who you are and how to serve you. They're not going to tell you, "Oh, what about a hiking trip somewhere in the Himalaya," because probably that doesn't fit your travel schedule, looking at what you've done in the past.
Yeah, they know exactly what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. Absolutely terrific. So there's a company that has fantastic systems engagement. Now, again, in the book, you may remember the story I wrote in the book, where and it was it's in the chapter that deals with systems engagement, and I just wanted an example. So I went to Google in the UK here, and I just typed in accountants near me, and did a search just to see what would happen. And lo and behold, there were a few adverts, of course, but the first organic return. So in other words, it's quite a good website if it's the first organic return. Right? You would think it's quite a good website. So you click on it, you go to this website, and it tells me that there's a homepage there. And the accounting firm is telling me that, they do personal tax, company tax, VAT, setting up companies, all the things you expect accountants to do.
Yeah, that's exactly what I pay accountants for.
Exactly. And you read this and you go, well, yeah, you're an accounting company. I kind of expect you to do that. So
exactly.
You've got
what
all
else
of this.
should you do? What else should you do?
Yeah, you've got all of this information on your homepage that's above the fold, and all you're doing is telling me what I already know, and now you are forcing me to scroll down to discover something else about you, and there basically isn't anything else there. There is no attempt at engagement at all. None.
It's basically an online poster.
And it's an online poster, and I don't even know whether you're even interested in my business. I've no idea what your target market is or anything. I just know you're an accounting firm, apparently.
And you want to have my money, and you offer the standard services anyone else offers. So I'm going to start to compare immediately.
Well, probably there was nothing on the site that converted me or attempted to convert me from being a visitor into a lead.
That is a very important point. But when you're okay, I'd like to jump in here, because when you say converting me, maybe you heard, and it was quite common in many industry, that people say, "Hey, you have a lead magnet, and this lead magnet is going to turn a visitor into a lead." That sounds very simple. But we all know that people became pretty suspicious about this typical, leave your data here, because you normally know they're going to call and spam me for the next couple of weeks. So do you believe that website owners are probably missing a trick, or spending more than they need to, or maybe benefit from, sharpening their act, sharpening what they do? What is your take on this whole lead magnet thing?
So I think a lot of websites suffer from what I call WTF, which in this instance stands for weak target focus.
Oh, okay, because okay.
Yeah. So calm down.
I think WTF. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
No, it stands for weak target focus, and that is the most common reason for lead magnets to perform poorly. So you go onto a website, and it's something like give me your name and telephone number, or whatever, and I'll send you our top 10 tips on XYZ. And nobody's interested in that, because as we've already established, we don't have an information problem. We can always get to that information quickly enough.
Yeah.
But what we can't do easily enough, and what would make a very good lead magnet, would be to solve, or at least partially solve, the visitor's pressing need.
Mm-hmm.
If we can do that, that would go a long way to converting that visitor into a lead, would it not?
Yeah.
So say, for example, that I were interested in serving small businesses about their websites, which I am.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't it be good, instead of saying, give me your name and email address and I'll email you 10 top tips on making a great website, which anybody can find out from anywhere.
Yeah.
If I were to say, well, click this link, answer these questions, and I will tell you a percentage score for your website right now, and I will tell you where you should be focusing your development budget. That seems to me like a much better lead magnet.
Yeah, I agree.
So what I am saying is that lead magnets that definitively engage the visitor do several things. Firstly, they help the visitor solve a pressing need. That's the first point, and that's good. Number two, by doing that, they will help convert that visitor into a lead. Second point, if a visitor is willing to sit down for 7 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, to go through a detailed assessment, if they are willing to do that, they are automatically qualifying themselves in as a lead. If they're willing to make that investment of their time, because they have gone through answering some fairly detailed questions about their, in this case, website, but it could be accounting or, whatever, then and obviously I get, as the supplier, I get to see that information, then I know a lot more about that lead than if they just left a name and an email address. So even before I have the first conversation with them, I know a lot more about them and how I can best help them or not.
Absolutely.
So this is a proper way of doing a lead magnet, in my view. And it also naturally reinforces what Google want us to do, which is Google's view on content and Google's view on websites, which is Google EAT, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So this is how Google assesses, particularly services websites. Google wants to see the providers of services, particularly services, but all websites. It wants to see the website owners demonstrate their expertise, show their authority, and gain trustworthiness. And Google employs people to look at websites and score them on this basis. This is not done by an algorithm. This is done by approximately 10,000 employees that Google has around the world looking at websites doing this precise thing.
Wow. Okay.
So Google EAT is really important. Expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And then that is modified. I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole on this one, but that is slightly modified depending on what it is that the website is doing. So, for example, if I ran a non-commercial website, so I wasn't selling anything, but I was just giving hints and tips on drawing or painting, art, for example. Okay, it's a hints and tips website for people who want to become better artists.
Yeah.
And I compare that with a blog run by a surgeon who is also doing some research into operations to do with cancer. Well, that's clearly a much more challenging topic. So Google doesn't view those two websites the same. They have another set of criteria for websites that deal with challenging subjects like that, or deal with subjects that or deal with e-commerce where you're taking money off people, and it's called YMYL: your money, your life. So YMYL content and Google EAT operate together. They're side by side, and they are very important, and they're how people like you and me, and probably many of your listeners, they're how their websites will be judged. And all I'm suggesting is that if you build a proper engagement process on your website that leads to a proper lead magnet system, then when you are doing that, you are automatically de facto illustrating your expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And the final point on that is that just in early December, Google announced an update to a system that they launched in August this year, which is focusing much more heavily on content. They call it their helpful content update. And it's Google's way of saying we're really going to reward people who produce really helpful content, which is a polite way of saying we're going to discriminate against people who aren't. And it's Google's way of also dealing with the rise of artificial intelligence created blog posts on numerous topics and what have you. And so these are these adverts where they tell me when you go on our website, you pay 50 quid and some AI is going to write you 60 articles in 10 minutes. Yeah. Now there is a place for AI. I'm not dissing AI, but what I am saying is that you can, the Google's update with its helpful content update and the update to the update that they launched in early December, Google is saying, okay, we understand what's going on. We are going to absolutely definitively reward people who produce good original content. If all you're doing is summarizing what everybody else has said, we're not going to be too excited about that, frankly. But if you are producing good original content and you are giving users the experience they want, which is that you are solving their problems for them, so they arrive at your website, they get a problem solved, and a lead magnet system like the one I've just described will go a long way to doing that, then, this will be looked on very favorably by Google's new approach. So we can expect the helpful content view from Google will have over time will have a big impact on all our websites, and it will either be positive or negative depending on what the content of our websites is. So it is an ever shifting market out there.
So there's a lot of work to do, and getting to exactly this point, I think some people might now sit there and say, wow. So first, of course, because I read your book, I highly recommend to anyone to anyone to do the same. The book is called Why Your Website Doesn't Work, How to Get Your Message Right, Focus Your Website and Stop Losing Business. And it does exactly what it says on the tin. However, I have one more question now, because I, and probably some others as well, might have a moment now, which is not WTF, but WTD, what to do. So what do you think is the best way how to do? Is there anything you can offer to us? And of course, how can people reach out to you?
The best thing to do is just to take the website effectiveness assessment. That is the straightforward.
Where do I find that? Where do I find that?
You can just pick it up straight from the homepage of my website. So if you just go to chrisdavidson.co.uk, it's sitting on the homepage. There's a button that says website effectiveness assessment, and away you go.
Excellent. And it's free.
It's totally free. In fact, you don't even have, if you can get your overall score for your entire website, you don't even have to give me a name and an email address. You just go in, you take the website effectiveness assessment, you get an overall score on the screen. At the end of the assessment, it just says, okay, 62%, 75%, whatever. If you want the breakdown, which is I think it's about a dozen pages, the report that breaks it all down into the different tiers, then yeah, we need an email address to send that report to.
Yeah, excellent. How can people reach out to you directly if you don't mind sharing that?
You can send me an email directly. The company that I run and operate is called Active Presence. So you can find me at chris@activepresence.com.
Excellent. So we heard today that probably our traditional approach, or let's say the approach we thought that is traditional, which probably just misses the market. We see that websites need way more effort than we probably have thought. And I can tell from experience, I've read a lot of books about websites. I read a lot of books about people telling me how to do the website this way or that way, and it's always cheap tricks on fonts or colors. This book goes in depth, and it has a high amount of really hands-on practical knowledge that you can apply immediately. So at the end, I can only recommend anyone to implement these steps in your organization with your business. And of course, Chris is here to help you. So at the end of this podcast, there's only one thing for me left to say. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you, Niels. Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.